I have a quote for you today, and it goes like this. How are you doing on your dream? This is a quote from Tony Robbins, and it is a quote that I've been working with in the last couple years. And you know what? It's more than that. It's even for the last couple decades. So the question I have for you is the following as well. How are you doing on your dreams? It's interesting because too often we're going to school, we do what we're supposed to do. We are getting our first job, we do what we need to do, and then one thing leads to another. And often we have a dream, something that we want to do, and sometimes it gets on the back burner. The question is, how can we make sure that we are keeping the dream alive? And that is the message for you today. It's a video for myself as well so that I can listen to it a few times in the weeks and the months to come. Because as I am working on this channel, this documenting my journey for um, being a better contributor to the planet with what I can teach, what I can be for others. I was reminded with Evan Carmichael a few months ago when we said that one thing I could do would be to take a textbook, a science textbook, because that's what I love to do, and share my way of understanding the topics. And when I'm done with the textbook, pick another one, and then see which textbook is in demand, and therefore create resources for other people. Keep in mind that some people, some schools, sometimes some areas, they don't have money for resources. On the other hand, the internet is there for many more people. And on top of being there for my students in a classroom of 20 or 30 or 35, I can be there for a much wider audience so that I can bring more value to students, but also to make our next generation of scientists aware and excited about science. And it's interesting because I was thinking of this idea of doing textbooks. And by the way, I am working on my first textbook and I have the first chapter done. I'm editing those right now. So this is part of a dream I've always wanted to do, especially that I loved to learn through reading, through research. And I always told myself that I would love to write a textbook. And interestingly enough, I never had a chance to do that. But I can do that through videos on YouTube. And maybe I can do even more. And that is part of the plan. Now, the original question is, how are you doing on your dream? Is that I'm 52 and I was reminded that it could be something I could do. And guess what? These are ideas I had 20 years, 30 years ago. So that means that it was always a dream there, right? It was put aside, and then life gets busy, and then we move on and we forget. On the other hand, sometimes the dreams we had originally are still there. And the question is, if you have a dream, regardless of the age you have, and there is value to share that dream for you, people close to you, and even beyond, then there is a bit of responsibility to say, okay, there's something I can do, and let's see if I can share it with the world. In order to do that, we need to be aware that we need to believe in our abilities and also make sure that we listen to the little voice we have in our heart, in our soul. Often, many of us, we have that little voice that tells us what we could do, what we should do, what we must do. Sometimes we know it's there, sometimes we do not always pay attention to it. And that's something to take care of, because most of the time our soul knows what's best for you. But we get influenced by our environment, society, and therefore we sometimes forget. As a high school teacher, I can teach science, and its topics are in the textbook, and we go from grade 9 to grade 12. On the other hand, we don't want to forget that students coming into my class, they do have dreams. Some of them are related to science and what I do, engineering, and so on. Others are they have a much more creative uh, idea or more creative dreams that sometimes I don't even know uh, how to interpret that. And that's something as a teacher that is not always easy because you want to bring forward new ideas while you are nurturing your students' ideas. And that's sometimes something that could be conflicting, especially if someone believes that their topic in a classroom is the most important, whereas other people say, well, the human in the classroom is the most important. But I do think that the best way to see that is that students come to your class, they have ideas, and you want to propose your idea about the course, for example, science, and see how they can take the ideas you propose to them so that they can um, compare it with their own ideas, so that they can take a concept of science and say, okay, how does it fit with my ideas and my dreams? Can I use it? Yes or no? If I can, wonderful. If it's not useful, well, just learning it as a way of learning, but then as soon as it's done, to put it aside and see what's next, what next can be learned in that situation. And that's something that is quite amazing because it's not my place to say to someone that my ideas are better than your ideas. So, what I share on this YouTube channel is what works for me, my thoughts, my ideas. But I always try to ask you questions so that you can decide, okay, this is new information. How can I take this new information, um, interpret it from my experience, from my perspective, and either use it to move on to the next level, or just say nope, it sounds great but it's not for me, and you set it aside. And that is part of addressing how life is and how society can be. Too often you may have met people that are very stubborn in their ideas, and they would much rather you do what they say. They would much rather you believe what they believe than for them to say, okay, what is your perspective and how can we change that? This is quite something um, to consider because it's so much easier to have others adapt to our beliefs compared to us being aware of other people's beliefs and then accept those beliefs as this diversity of culture, of understanding of the world. And that's how we can grow, I think. And that's why I think that traveling or meeting people, new friends in new areas, learning new things allow you to expand your perspective. And that's important because by expanding your perspective, you can either find new ideas and better define your dreams, or you can find that dreams that somehow got lost in the day-to-day life. And that's why some people love to travel when they're on vacation. They like to get out of their house to go somewhere else. And the reason for that is it allows them to step back and reconnect with themselves and not stay where they are all the time within that environment with sometimes self-imposed ideas. So this is the idea I have today. Because if you don't take care of your dreams, then it will be up here. It will still be part of your thoughts. It will take emotional energy, intellectual energy to maintain it. And some people say, well, it is a dream, or I'm going to put it on a bucket list. But then it becomes just a checklist, which is not as good as saying, okay, I have that idea. Let's see if I can try to get closer to it. And if through my experiences, and if you try something through your experiences, you might say, okay, this is what I've always wanted to do. Or some of you says, you know what? I tried it and it's not what I expected. So then you can take that idea that you had and set it aside so you can redirect energy for other ideas and other dreams you may have. So today's idea from Tony Robbins this question is, how are you doing on your dream? And it's an amazing question because too often we forget. So if you keep asking yourself that question, it will re-emphasis. Yeah, there you go. What is important for you. And you might do an occupation, you may have a job, you may have a company that is working towards your dream, or you can do what you need to do during the daytime so that you can, as soon as it's done, focus on something else, something that gives you energy to appreciate life a little bit more and be able to give value to others. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to collaborate and be there for each other. On this, enjoy the day. I'm going to put here a link to a video that I did a couple days ago, and I'll see you there.